Greetings, everyone. My name is Luis Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro podcast. Today, I'm joined by Steve Garland, who is the Gulf Coast Premium Sales Manager for General Cigar Company. And with that, Steve, thanks for coming in today. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So this is your first time with us in the studio. What are your impressions?
This is cool. Like, you guys built a really nice spot. Having the dedicated space and the equipment, like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are doing great. I've been watching the episodes, so it's entertaining.
And I asked you this because you have a lot more insight into podcast production. You've been involved in some yourself, huh?
Yeah, we started a podcast when I was in retail, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, probably. And so it's just a fun thing for us to do. We don't take it as seriously, but it was just fun, So I enjoy doing this stuff. It's always fun.
Yeah. No, we're having fun too. And, I get to smoke a cigar with our guests. So that's the perk. So with that, you were gracious enough to gift me this cigar. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah.
As I cut and light it?
This is our Weller by Cohiba. So it is a yearly limited edition. So we put these out. I believe the first one was in 2021. So this is the third version. A little different this year. They're aged in Weller 12 barrels, which gives it a really unique kind of note.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Weller, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, it's the Weller bourbon.
Okay.
Yeah. So give it a cold draw. And
okay.
You'll pick up kind of that barrel note in there. Really interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's clean too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get a little sense of that kind of profile on the cold draw.
Yeah, it's a great cigar.
Very nice. Well, I'm going to light it up. And so this is an annual release. And can you go into more explanation about the Cohiba brand itself?
Yeah, so Cohiba is kind of a higher end lifestyle cigar brand, right? It's Sean Williams is our brand ambassador, and he absolutely lives the Cohiba life. He's a awesome individual. Knows so much about tobacco. It's unreal. Like, the guy has forgotten more than I'll ever know about cigars. It's impressive, but he's involved in every step of this process. So they partnered with the Weller bourbon, and they've put these out now for a couple of years. Tweak the blend each year a little bit. So different aspects. So the change this year was the Weller 12 barrels.
Okay. Oh, and so what were they aged in previous vintages? Do you know?
I think it was just the special reserve, the standard Weller stuff, which, I mean, the bourbon craze has gone nuts. So that stuff's getting harder and harder to find. So you say the regular Weller stuff, it's still impossible to get. So it's not really regular.
Because I understand, because I don't know much about bourbon, but the regular standard MSRP is supposed to be what, like a $30 or $40 bottle, maybe?
Yeah, like on the special reserve, it's somewhere around that. The 12 gets up, and they get up higher and higher, the limited edition stuff. And it when I first started drinking bourbon, like, you could find Weller pretty regularly. And now, like, it's impossible to find it. And even Buffalo Trace, which is owned by the same company now, like, that's getting harder and harder to find. So the bourbon craze has just gone absolutely berserk. Yeah. It's unreal. Prices are through the roof. It's crazy.
I wonder what it took for General Cigar to secure, I guess, some of these barrels to age the tobacco in.
That I don't know necessarily what it takes to get them. I know a lot of companies use different bourbon barrels for aging processes. This one is unique because it is a specific brand, a specific barrel, and so it does pick up a little hint of that kind of note. And I think you taste it more in the cold draw, right? Once it starts burning, it's still there, but it's very faint. Because you don't want it to kind of mess the blend up of the tobacco to where you lose the appeal of the cigar, right? Where it's just bourbon.
Yeah.
So I think we do a really good job with these in maintaining the true Cohiba flavor profile, but adding that little bit of Weller.
Okay. Yeah, definitely has there's a very distinct note to it. It's hard to describe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's like
unique.
oaky.
Yeah.
It's something thick though.
Yeah. There's a little oak flavor. There's a little bit of that sweetness that you get from the bourbon, I think. And it's all subjective. Everybody's going to taste it differently. But, if you just took this tobacco and smoked it without the barrel aging, and then you smoke it again with the barrel aging, it's going to completely change it. Right. And they use fresh barrels, so I think that has a bigger impact on it versus, if you use the same barrel over and over and over, you're going to lose some of that in each process. So,
yeah, I never thought about that. I wonder with most cigar factory or other factories that use bourbon barrels or other barrels to age the tobacco leaves, if they have to replenish or replenish them or use new barrels.
I think some do, some don't. Some just use the same ones over and over, but it's kind of dependent on what you're looking to get out of the barrel, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's got to be a factor though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's I want to ask you about yourself. When did you first start smoking cigars?
So I started in college when I was 18 years old. I had a buddy that smoked pipe and pipe tobacco all the time.
Okay.
And so we were just hanging out one day during college, and he's like, I got to run to the cigar shop and buy some pipe tobacco. I was like, I'll come along with you. I got nothing else to do, So I went into the cigar shop and I just fell in love. I bought one cigar and I was hooked.
Yeah.
That was
the culture got you right away.
It just grabbed me immediately. And it's really interesting because that store is still around and he's a customer of mine now.
Oh, cool.
And I hadn't been in there.
Who is that? You want to give a shout out? Yeah.
Yeah. His name's CL Davis. It's Davis Smoke Shop in Russellville, Arkansas.
Okay.
So I went to a small school called Arkansas Tech. And that shop's been there forever.
Wow.
And it's half of it's a pet store and half of it's a cigar shop.
What?
So you go into the pet store and it smells like the cigar shop. And you go into the cigar shop and you smell the cedar chips from the pet store. It's really interesting shop. But CL is in his 80s. He smokes probably 18 hours a day. He's got a cigar in his mouth. He may not be smoking it the whole time, but he has it in his mouth, Oh,
yeah.
He's just one of those legend guys that you meet in the cigar industry that we're running out of, I think, right? That generation is slowly passing. And, we're getting a new generation of those guys that are in the industry and have been in the industry for a long time. But I think there's a difference in character in the way that they grew up in the industry versus the way we are.
Yeah.
So, he was in it before the boom in the 90s, right? So he got to live through that and own the shop then and worked his way through the boom and then saw it drop back down. And then in the 2000s, it picked back up again. And now we're in somewhat of a boom now, right?
Right.
COVID kind of expedited that, but it's getting to talk to those guys and gather the knowledge that they have of the cigar industry and seeing how companies have grown and changed through the years. We don't get that unless we talk to those guys.
That's right.
I think they're a very important part of the industry that everybody should, if they have the opportunity to, talk to those guys.
I know. I love talking to like what I call the old school people in the industry, whether they're shop owners or sales reps or working in the factories. I mean, they've been in it so long, they can see how the industry's changed or what things about it has stayed the same.
Yeah.
Like I love talking to one of our brokers that they're part of the Polar family. Love talking to their father, Rick Polar.
Yeah.
He's been with Fuente and Jason Newman since I think the 80s.
Yeah.
And so hearing his take on the industry and what it was about during that time period is really fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they're really cool. If you get a chance, talk to one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my advice.
Because I'm fascinated by cigar history. And, I've come up with this notion that if you look at every decade, you can assign the top dog of a brand for that decade, right? But I've always found it fascinating that they don't always seem to maintain their top status. They'll fall by the wayside for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I've tried to figure out why that is. For example, the big brand of the 70s was Monte Cruz. I know at one point they were made in the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands were a big country of origin or source of cigar production, especially after the Cuban embargo and there was a displacement. A lot of people say that, people went either to Dominican, Honduras, or Nicaragua. But that's not true. The Canary Islands is actually a major stop.
Sure.
Jamaica was another area where they grew tobacco. I mean, the original Macanudo Cafe used the Jamaican tobacco, but it's just changed over the years. So I love getting the insight into why brands rise and then fall. And those older cigar people, they can be that connection or that
absolutely
that link, that knowledge of why that is.
Yeah, sure.
So I love those old school guys.
I could sit in a cigar shop and talk to those guys all day long. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have to sell cigars to make a living, that's what I would do, is just sit in there and talk to those guys forever. So they're so entertaining.
So you started smoking in that shop, and now you're his account manager.
Yeah. So I left college, worked a couple different jobs, just kind of searching for a path in life, and I eventually started working at a cigar bar part time. My wife decided to go to graduate school, so we moved from a small town in Arkansas to the capital, Little Rock, and started working at a cigar bar part time, and then it went to full time, and then I started running the cigar side of things, and moved to another shop and helped the guy build a business from the ground up, basically. So I worked with him for that shop's called West End Cigars. They're still there in Little Rock. They have 2 stores now. But I worked for them, I want to say right at 7 years, 6 or 7 years with him. And then took a rep job and started traveling. So
now who did you start with? It wasn't General Cigar,
Ashton.
Right? Okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
Ashton Cigars. So I was with them for like 2.5, almost 3 years. And I've been on this side with General for not quite a year.
Okay.
Coming up on a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what I guess to give listeners insight into, I guess, the structure of your company, how can you give me a little bit more description of that? Like who owns General, and is there a difference with Forge? What's that all about?
Yeah, so General is very unique when it comes to cigar companies because we are a publicly traded company in Europe, right? We're owned by a company called Scandinavian Tobacco Group. So originally it was just General Cigars in the United States was the cigar side of thing. We also have Lane, which at that time was roll your own tobacco, cigarettes, pipe tobacco, a lot of things. And then throughout the years, they started buying companies and just created a bigger and bigger and bigger portfolio. And then, what was it, 2021? It was 2020 or 2021. They decided to split it because the portfolio had just gotten too big. And that's where Forged comes from, right? And you had Jonathan Herring, who's my counterpart with Forged. And that was a great interview. I really enjoyed listening to that episode. But so basically it just became so large that they decided, let's split it. We'll have 2 sales forces. They can focus on this. They can focus on this. And it's really grown the business a lot. Yeah. And listen, I'll admit I was in retail when that happened. So it must have been earlier than that. Anyways.
Yeah, I forget now too what year
I was hesitant to say that, this is the way to go. But now looking back at it, it's worked flawlessly.
Yeah, I'm sure there was initial pushback from retailers. Yeah. A lot of scratching heads. Like what?
Well, if you think about it, you've had all these cigars from this company and you've been ordering from one rep for 20 years. And then all of a sudden now you have to deal with 2 different reps. You got 2 different shipping departments. You have 2 different accounting departments. Like it just becomes a little more of a headache for the retailer. But what it does is it allows us to focus on the core of General Cigars and the core of Forged cigars. So just in the last 2 years, look at how much the Forged side of things has grown, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, you're starting to see brands that have rebounded that were getting neglected, not necessarily that they were stale, just not getting the attention that they needed. Yeah. And so now, we can get to your customer, the end consumer, twice as efficiently. So it works out great.
Yeah, I'm sure now everyone's Monday morning quarterbacking. It's like, oh yeah, that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Before they were probably the same ones like screaming and probably complaining. I'm sure you in the office heard the complaints, but I was just annoyed at the fact of, all right, now I got to try to remember which brands this Forge
who do I order
represent.
What from?
And I'm sure like most retailers, we were like calling the wrong salesman.
Every day I get an order for a Forged product.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm sure vice versa. It happens with Jonathan.
Absolutely.
He gets General.
So, and we communicate back and forth, right? If an account in this area sends me a Forged invoice, like I'm just going to send it over to them, right? Yeah. I'm going to let the account know, hey, these are my products, but these are the Forged. I'm going to go ahead and forward that over to him so you don't have to mess with it. But in the future, now
Yeah.
So.
And for me, I've learned a little bit quicker just because I'm the one. Well, no, actually, no. We divide the responsibility of who actually updates the pricing. Like today, that's why I didn't talk to you for the first hour you were here because I was still in the office, like trying to update the General Cigar portfolio since they just announced a price increase, them and Forged. And now that I'm involved with like updating it, I get to see the catalogs again and again, and really kind of see her like, all right, this is what General owns and this is what Forged
absolutely
represents. So, but yeah, no, I think it's brilliant too. You kind of also keep maybe the illusion that there's two companies. So STG doesn't really lose the shelf space, which I'm sure was another motivational reason why they split it up too.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, we're in the customer's space more often with having two sales forces. So that lends to you guys are getting more requests for both of the products, right? So, when we run an event for General Cigars, we're going to focus on Cohiba, Macanudo, CAO, whatever, right? When you run an event for Forged Cigars, now you're going to focus on one of their brands, right?
Yeah.
So even if we were getting 2 events a year, which most of the time you don't with most shops, you get 1, right? So even if you were getting 2 a year, you're still probably going to take your 2 top sellers at that shop. So something's getting left out. So now you've got, if you get 1 event a year from each rep, they can focus on the products that they need to focus on, and we can focus on the stuff that we need to focus on. So like I said, I was very skeptical, but it has worked out great.
And just to kind of give the rundown of some of the brands in your portfolio, we know Cohiba, there's Macanudo, CAO, Punch, Oida Monterey, Sancho Panza, the Odyssey bundles.
Yep.
And then you mentioned Lane Limited, which includes the famous 1Q pipe tobacco.
Yeah, #1 selling pipe tobacco in the world still.
I'm so glad that y'all took that, because I forgot who we were ordering it from. Maybe it was another distributor, and now that it's back under STG or General, it's just more convenient for us.
Yeah, so all the Lane, all the Stokeby, all the Peterson stuff, like we have all that. So we still have a really big portfolio if you look at us compared to other cigar companies, right? Just General, not even counting Forged. Our portfolio is still really large compared to some of those other guys. So, it's still a lot to keep up with, and that's my job. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
I was looking, I think the most recent catalog has 9 pages.
Yeah.
Of General Cigar, just like mostly cigars.
Yeah. At one time,
and then Forged, I think, had four pages. So I mean, they're growing it, but I mean,
absolutely.
It just conveys and underscores the fact that General Cigars still has a large portfolio.
Sure. Well, and it helps with the continued ability to acquire other companies and introduce those. So now we have 2 outlets that we can push that through. So.
Now, to go back to your job, what does your territory encompass? Like, what's the size? Who do you cover, like statewide?
So I live in Arkansas, which is unique. That was not, they didn't necessarily want me to live in Arkansas, but that was part of my condition for the job. So I cover Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Panhandle of Florida.
Okay.
And I also cover like Memphis and Jackson, Tennessee, just because it's so close to Arkansas.
Okay.
So I have one of the larger territories as far as square miles.
Yeah.
This area, it's very spread out compared to certain areas of the country, right? So I have the same amount of shops, but I do a lot more driving than some of the guys.
And I was going to ask you, do you do mostly driving or flying?
I drive all of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Flying's okay. I don't mind the flying aspect. The airport I hate.
Oh, okay.
I despise the airport.
Yeah.
So I hate it. The people that get up and stand right in front of the gate when they're the last people on the plane and they want to stand right in front of the gate. Like, what are you in a hurry for to get in your seat? You have an assigned seat.
I know.
Why are you in a hurry to just go sit in a tube? Like, I want to be the last guy on the plane.
Yeah. I know. I never understood that. I mean, unless they're worried that there's not going to be enough space to stow your carry-on.
Yeah.
But
that's the only thing.
But, yeah. But even then,
check your bag, there's enough. And then you don't have to worry about it.
And look, I've learned, because I don't travel as much as sales reps, but like, all right, if you're last, they don't have any more room, you can get that free check-in.
They're gonna take your bag.
Yeah.
They're not gonna tell you no.
Yeah. It's not like you're not gonna have it. So,
right.
So you drive it mostly. How many stores is it about? 100?
Yeah, more. Somewhere between 100 and 150 is usually, and it changes constantly. Stores open, stores close. So it's gonna cycle through randomly, but usually somewhere in that 100 to 150. And that, it goes up when you have, wholesalers or liquor stores, or whatever, right? So every company's different with who they distribute to, right?
Yeah.
So like when I was with Ashton, we didn't distribute to anybody that didn't have a brick and mortar retail location, cigar shop, right? And even some that did, there's minimums that you have to hit and things like that. So with General, because we have such a large portfolio, we can accommodate smaller stores. We have smaller setups for those guys. Liquor stores are very unique. So, we change the products that we put in there versus what we put in a brick and mortar cigar store. So we have a few more outlets that we deal with.
And for those tuning in just recently to our podcast, we're based in Louisiana. So the common theme I get between most of the sales reps, like where we are in this country, we're so densely populated with cigar stores as compared to say like in Atlanta. There's probably more shops there than there are in all of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. Probably.
Yeah, there's over 100 stores just in Atlanta. So if you deal with all of them, I mean, you could literally have one rep for just Atlanta,
just for a city. Yeah. Yeah.
It's unreal.
Same thing in like the Northeast where you just have a higher concentration of shops.
Absolutely.
So those reps,
have more reps in those areas. They cover a smaller territory, right?
But I always feel bad for guys like you that get our, it's just like, there's mostly driving.
I drive 60 to 70,000 miles a year. So it's a lot of windshield time. So I listen to a lot of podcasts.
I was going to ask you and that's a question that I want to start asking our reps. Like, what are your favorite podcasts? Like while you're traveling?
So I listen to Rogan some. I kind of pick and choose the guests that I want to listen to. And occasionally you get bored with the stuff you've been listening to. So you go back to Rogan and listen to some random episode with, somebody you never heard of, but it's like kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've come across like guests I didn't even know, but decided to just randomly listen. And
absolutely.
It's really engaging. Yeah.
And the other thing with him is it's a long form podcast. So, if you have a 4-hour drive, he's going to take up the majority of that with one episode, right? So it just feels more engaged for the longer episodes. And I think what you guys do, that kind of hour and a half is that sweet spot.
Yeah. I mean, we were thinking of doing a longer form. I think our first few guests, they ran about an hour and a half. I think we had one guest, he was 2 hours, and we just, besides the production, like the post editing, the time it takes, the memory it takes up on, for our producer's computer. We just figured let's just kind of condense it to about that hour 15. That's pretty, I guess manageable for the consumer to digest,
Well, and the general population is not in the car for more than an hour at a time, right? Most people are not.
Yeah.
They go on a road trip or vacation or something that's different. But you think about like your commute to work every morning.
That's right.
20, 30 minutes is probably average.
Yeah.
So you listen to it in small bits. It's much easier to digest an hour episode when you can listen to that on the way there and then on the way back and you're done with it.
Yeah.
Right. If you have to stretch that over 2 or 3 days, you forget parts of it, or, you reference back to something that you talked about in the early part of the episode and, they've missed that. This just doesn't click. So Rogan's a good one for me, like I said, because of how long it is. But
who else?
I listened to another one that's a really weird one. I'm strangely into cult podcasts.
Nice. Okay.
So there's one called Necronomapod.
Okay.
So Necronomapod.
Okay.
So they cover like aliens, serial killers, cults, just weird, odd
secret
stories,
government conspiracies,
all kinds of stuff like that.
Illuminati.
So it's all entertainment, right? It's just three guys in their basement drinking beer, recording a podcast. So they're just entertaining to me.
I love that topic, and me and Nick, our producer, like we discuss that topic all the time. And like some of the ones I listened to, they weren't necessarily podcasts, but the radio. They're syndicated. I don't know if you ever heard of Ground Zero.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Coast to Coast. But the problem with those is that they're late at night. So it's like, I don't want to like lose sleep either. But a lot of the content there is really engaging.
Well, the good thing with like Coast to Coast is now you can find that stuff online and listen to it when you want to, right?
Yeah.
So
that's true.
More readily available. But yeah, that one's one of my favorites. I listen to some hunting podcasts. You and I are both big duck hunters. So I listen to some of that stuff. I mean, it's a wide array. And I do music and audiobooks too.
Okay.
It just depends on what I'm in the mood for.
Are you into sports?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any sports podcasts that you
Fantasy
follow?
football. I try to keep up with my team.
Okay.
I had J.K. Dobbins go out this week, so I'm struggling.
I
lost my matchup by a quarter of a point. Not even a half a point. A quarter of a point.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So
have you ever won any fantasy football leagues?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been playing fantasy for a long time. There was a time like when I was working in the cigar shop, I'd be in 4 or 5, 6 different leagues at times. And it just is too much. And now I don't have time to keep up with that. So I'm in one, right? And it's a bourbon league. We trade bourbon bottles back and forth.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Are you into sports betting? Is there sports betting in Arkansas legally? Or
yeah, so we just recently got sports betting. So you have to go through a casino in Arkansas, and there's only 4, I believe, currently. There's a 5th one in the process being built. So you have to download their app and you bet through their systems.
Oh.
It's a kind of a weird law in Arkansas. All gambling has to go through a casino, and they only allow, like I said, 5 is all they're allowing in the state currently. So for the longest time there was only 2, and then they recently upped it to 5, and so there's some people moving in. I think Jerry Jones is a partner in one of the new ones that's getting built. So
Oh, wow.
but yeah, so you download their app. The bad part about it is like when I'm out of town, I can't even look at the bets that I placed because it geotags you and says you're not in Arkansas.
Yeah.
You can't bet with us. So
Yeah.
it sucks.
What
in
about
that
using
point,
what are those VPNs?
yeah, I've
So
thought
at
about
least-
that.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's legal. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't
there's-
know. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do any sports betting. I just don't know the math on that.
Yeah.
I used to play a lot of poker in the casinos and blackjack.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at one point, it was when I turned 21, I would read books on how to like correctly play it, like mathematically.
Yeah.
So like I had no qualms like staying on 16,
Right.
you know, and if the dealer was showing a certain hand, but
Mhm.
I hadn't played that in so long, I just got out of it because I was losing sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it just takes up so much time.
I used to play a lot of poker when we would go to casinos. Now I just kind of play roulette. And the reason I started doing that is because they'd let you smoke cigars at the table, and now most of them have taken that out. So
In Arkansas,
in all casinos, they're like even in Vegas, they're cutting it. All the
they're
Caesars
cutting
properties,
it, but it's not from like a governmental
no, it's the casino's
like
policy.
edict. Yeah, and that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because I think Atlantic City, the city at one point banned it, and then they overturned it like a week or 2 later,
Yeah.
realizing we're losing money.
Yeah.
So
Well, New Orleans banned it in all the
Yeah, that's
casinos. I mean,
crazy.
that's been a big hot button topic for them.
So what the anti-tobacco lobby has done brilliantly, at first they try to go at it at the state level, you know, ban it from the state level. And they just had so much opposition to that. It was tougher to overturn. So they got smart and started going more local.
Yeah.
So a death by 1,000 cuts, they would go to the individual cities, and that's
Absolutely.
how they got that through. I think the only, let's see, they banned it in Baton Rouge. So you can't smoke in casinos here. They banned it in New Orleans. I think Shreveport is the last like holdout.
Well, Shreveport's still on the river, right? All the casinos have to be in the river.
Yeah, I mean they have. I think the only land based is what was Harrah's. Now it's the MGM in New Orleans, and the rest had to have been a boat,
Yeah.
a river boat,
Right.
which there's just weird stuff with that
That's crazy.
that I don't know all about. But I think they're technically on the river, but that doesn't matter. It's whatever jurisdiction
Yeah.
they're in. So they still
Yeah.
allow it. If they ban it in Shreveport, it's because that's just the casino policy.
Yeah.
But I remember when I used to work for a distributor in New Orleans, we would ship a lot of cigars to those casinos
Yeah.
up there. And when I first got in the business, I would call on Harrah's in New Orleans and all sorts of casinos around the state, even traveling Mississippi to some of the casinos, and we would sell directly to them. But as time went on, especially I think around 2007 is when a lot of these laws started coming down.
Yeah.
Even in restaurants, I used to sell the cigars in restaurants in New Orleans, and the ones that had humidors and had the cigar bar or space. That was pretty cool. But they passed that anti-smoking bill for restaurants,
Yeah.
and that pretty much killed that.
I still occasionally find hotels that allow smoking in the rooms. It's
What?
very rare.
Yeah, the only ones I've found like that are in Las Vegas. But
There's a
I don't
few,
travel.
like in Mississippi.
Yeah,
think,
yeah, I
that's
was gonna say
still-
Mississippi still.
Yeah.
I think you
A
can
little
still
behind the
smoke
times.
in I would say they're progressive in that end.
I think there's
Uh,
parts of Texas that you can still smoke in restaurants.
Huh.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know that for
maybe,
sure. I might be lying there.
Yeah.
but
Again, you'd have to look at, all right, is it a state law?
Yeah.
Or is it more like a city or county?
Yeah. We were driving
Thing.
back from Austin and we stopped at this little gas station to get gas. And I go inside and they have like the hot food counter, where you can order food. And there's a guy smoking a cigarette in there. And I'm like, where are we? Like, this does not happen anywhere else.
And that was in Austin? Or,
It was-
or,
no,
or, yeah,
it
maybe
was
outside.
A little
yeah.
small
Yeah, it's gotta
rural
be.
town in
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually like seeing that.
Yeah.
But I'm a
it's
little biased,
It's
right?
unique. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Mississippi, the last time that I actually like tested that was at a Waffle House. And this must have been probably like 2009. I'm sure, I don't know if they've overturned or not, but I stopped at a Waffle House and I noticed there were ashtrays. I'm like, what wait, I can smoke in here?
Yeah.
So just out of principle, like after my meal, I'll just lit up a cigar in there. I was like, whoa, this is so bizarre, but cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you're living the high life. Waffle House,
In
eating
Mississippi.
breakfast, smoking a cigar. That's it,
Yeah,
boys.
Yeah, but you know what? Like I said, that's in my view, that's very progressive then to still allow the
Yeah,
business to decide, right?
absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure you and I agree on let the free market decide like whether the business should allow smoking or not.
Sure.
Let the business owner.
I mean, you still see the no smoking signs on airplanes. Occasionally, you'll see an ashtray still in a
yeah.
seat. You know, most of them have gotten new planes since then. But
Mhm.
I mean, really, it wasn't that long ago. You could smoke on an airplane. You know.
Yep. No, I remember. I mean, it's showing my age, but traveling via plane down to El Salvador. That's where my parents are from, and my mom was smoking cigarettes back then. I remember she had to go to the back of the plane, as if like dividing the
Yeah.
plane in smoking versus non-smoking
Right.
sections would help.
Well, it was the same in the restaurants. They'd have a half wall,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's to this. You
Yeah,
know, it's like,
exactly,
what
yeah.
is that stopping?
Yeah, unless they have air circulation systems, but they
Yeah.
usually don't. Yeah, you could still smell it.
I think in Oklahoma you could still smoke in office buildings up until like 2002 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's but yeah, the times have changed, and now they've conditioned people like you just can't smoke anywhere. So
Mhm.
for I guess us, we go to a place like a restaurant or any other business that you see people smoking, it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I guess, most like we've seen a lot of you can probably attest to this. Most of our consumers, they buy and they smoke at their house
Yeah.
or wherever, But usually, I mean, we don't really have too many people lounging. And plus with our private lounge, it's kind of a different dynamic now.
Yeah, and you're seeing that the change in shops. My sample size is in the South. I don't know about across the country, but in the South, you saw cigar lounges, right, where people could sit and smoke, and that was the whole idea. And then it slowly started to change, where you started seeing more cigar bars, and then that's even changed since COVID. I think you're starting to see more that don't have a lounge anymore, and it's just a stop in, buy it, and take it home, smoke on your patio or wherever,
Yeah.
the golf course, whatever.
I love the fact that STG is public. We can kind of gain insight into, the economy, or at least the business of cigars and tobacco.
Absolutely.
I hadn't seen the last quarterly report. Have they reported an up quarter, flat, or down quarter? I don't know if you follow that as much.
Yeah, so we have a quarterly meeting where the entire company is on a phone call, and it's in Europe, so unfortunately for me, that's at 6 a.m.
Man.
So I have to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
up and listen to those. So.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's always interesting that this channel's up, this one's down, or whatever, right? So kind of back and forth. But if you look at the 2019 was the last year we had of pre-COVID numbers, right? So if you look at the business now versus 2019, yeah, we're exponentially above that, right? Now across the board, I would say most cigar companies are not doing what they did in 2021 and 22, right? But business is good. Right,
Yeah.
we're still
I
killing.
think we're still at
2019.
like all-time
Absolutely.
highs. We just might have like reached the
Plateaued.
peak. Yeah. And now
Right.
just kind of flat, but still it's
Right.
good.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But like most corporations, they got to show growth and
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's they're not going to come to me and say, "Hey, just meet what you did last year, and we'll be happy with that." Absolutely not.
Right,
They,
right.
they want that growth.
Do you and you don't have to answer this, I don't know if this is personal, but does STG offer some sort of employee stock incentive?
I don't believe so.
Because I know it's traded in the European
right.
markets.
So I don't know how that works buying European stocks.
Okay.
I'm sure you'd have to have some sort of account to be
Yeah.
able to purchase in Europe. I don't know how that works. So
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if like HR has reached out to you guys and said,
No.
"Hey, you can buy into the company at the
not that I
discounted
know
rate."
of.
Okay.
Listen, I'm just a
You might have to ask that.
country boy from Arkansas. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
I
you
don't know
can't
what that
invest
means.
in your own company. Yeah.
I don't know anything about crypto. I don't play the stock market.
Yeah.
I buy bourbon and cigars. Bet
I've-
on sports.
I've heard of some retailers that, they're invested in STG. So they're really motivated to make sure that General and Forged do well, right? So
Absolutely.
I think
And
that'd
why
be kind of an
wouldn't
interesting
you?
concept if STG offered stocks to like retail owners.
Retailers.
Yeah.
That is an interesting concept.
Because that would definitely incentivize us as a as a shop, like, let me push them because
Right.
obviously I own shares in this company.
Yeah, sure.
Hmm.
And that, part of my job is creating that partnership,
Mm-hmm.
with the shops that we deal with. Like, I'm not a used car salesman. I'm not coming in here to sell you something and I never see you again.
Yeah.
Right. We're trying to build a relationship and a partnership to where this is a long-term thing for both of us. And we both want to do well, right? I don't want to see you guys go out of business.
Right.
Like, what benefit would that be to me?
Yeah, of course. And our incentives are aligned. So
Right.
I appreciate, you and other sales managers who don't, implement that kind of high pressure sales tactics.
Right.
And you've probably heard there are more no's given by retailers for maybe something new coming in or try to buy into more of like existing product in the catalog.
Sure.
But we're going to buy what sells, what has demand, And I think
Absolutely.
that's one thing General has done great is creating that demand, that consumer demand.
Yeah.
Whether they have their own content. I'm seeing a lot more effort in that regard. So I think that helps everyone out.
Yeah, I mean, we have a social media team that manages all
Mhm.
that, right? And so each brand has its own social media, and we try to participate in all of those and make it work for our advantage, just like any company would.
Mm-hmm.
So we spend a lot of time on that. Each of the brands has its own website. We
Yep.
try to drive traffic to the website so they can educate themselves on new stuff coming out, and then they come in and ask you guys for it, which is better for both of us, right? Creates a sale for you, a sale for me. It's
Right.
great business.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you capitalize on that?
No, exactly. I've been utilizing it myself. Like going to the websites. I'm on Macanudo's own website. Cohiba has their own. La Gloria, I know that's Forge, but using the details, like the pitch, right? That we'll basically just copy and paste and put it in our own point of sale, so our staff can see. Like, all right, I don't know about this brand, but let me look it up in our system. All right, this is the description. Here's the anatomy, the flavor profile, and what have you. Because it's hard for any retailer, I think, especially that has a large, extensive selection, to really know every talking point of every SKU that you carry.
Yeah, I mean, how many facings do you guys have?
Mm-hmm.
Few
I can tell.
hundred, right?
I can tell you right now. Let's see. But the way our system it works, like they count a box
As a separate
as a
SKU.
SKU. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I usually just have to divide it by 2. And then some are inactive or not really. These
Right.
are just any product that we've created.
Yep.
So right now we actively have 12,756 SKUs.
That's crazy.
So divide that by 2,
Still.
about 6,000, but probably 20% of that is gone. So I'd say maybe like 4,500.
But still,
No.
remembering every
But that's
aspect
pipe
of
tobacco,
4,500 different products.
Little accessories. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point I bring that up is, having a manufacturer put out all those little details, those selling points helps us out too.
Yeah, we try. I shouldn't say we try. We do. Like when something new's coming out and you guys buy it, like we have a social media campaign that goes out on our stuff, and we send that stuff to you and say, here, if you guys want to share it, this is what you have. If we do an event, we try to send posters and social media that go along with the event to try to help you promote it, right? Because it's better for both of us.
Right.
So.
And for anyone listening in, like that's puzzled by this conversation, it's like, well, isn't that standard? Like, shouldn't any company in any industry have
No.
those digital media assets?
Yeah.
But people don't realize our industry is so old school, maybe to its detriment to mom and pop, even from the manufacturer side. They haven't, I think the concept of barcodes is still kind of new for this industry, even though I know General was one of the first.
Absolutely.
To have that.
I think Fuente just finally put every cigar they
about
have
2
in
years,
cellophane. Yeah, 2 years ago.
But Drone still doesn't have it.
Still doesn't. Yeah.
You know?
Tatuaje on most of their stuff doesn't.
Yep.
So, we're an industry of tradition and heritage that's slowly modernizing.
Yeah.
But I think we have a new generation of smokers coming in.
Yep.
The
retailers.
Absolutely.
They expect that now.
From both sides. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to grow and adapt to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely a change. And COVID, I think, pushed that a little bit. A lot of millennial age people and younger were not into tobacco, right? Because their whole lives, even you and I, right? We grew up with anti-smoking advertisements everywhere we went. So you just assume that cigars are bad because it's tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
There's very conflicting information on that, depending on what source you look at. who do you believe, right?
Yeah, didn't the FDA even like kind of
Yeah.
out themselves and say, oh, I guess cigars aren't as bad as we.
So I think when they did their study to get the FDA regulations passed, they had to create a group. What they called a minor smoker was 23 years old. At 23 years old, like you were an adult in every aspect of your life other than tobacco and renting a car.
According to the FDA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to get their numbers to look correct, that's the age group that they had to go to, right? If they would have done 18 and under or even 21 and under, it wouldn't have met the narrative that they were trying to get past. Right. So they had to expand it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not necessarily opposed to the 21 and over. I think it should be across the board. If it's going to be 18, everything's 18. If it's going to be 21, everything needs to be 21, right? You shouldn't be able to sign up for the military at 18 years old if you're not considered an adult until you're 21. If it's 18, you should be able to buy a beer at 18. You should be able to buy tobacco. You should be able to do everything that an adult can do, right? You can be tried as an adult if you commit a crime. So why are you not?
But you can't smoke a cigar or drink.
All right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You go die for your country, but you can't buy a beer.
Yep. And
I just don't get it.
That's the pitch we hear all the time from our side too. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's mixed signals. Like, are you an adult or not?
Right.
You know, at 18.
It's crazy.
So,
and I guess I understand the, car rental. You can't rent a car until you're 24 or something without, I think you have to pay cash or something for a car rental.
Yeah, no,
that's
more
an insurance
restrictive
issue. That's a little different, right?
Yeah.
Because your liability of the vehicle.
But that's is that like company or industry practice, or is that something from government?
No, I think that's just industry practice.
Yeah.
I don't.
So it's not like the government's banning someone under 25 or 24 to rent a car. That's just the company policy.
My brother got married. He was 19 years old, and they wanted to rent a car to go on their honeymoon, and they could not rent a car.
Oh,
him and his wife were both under 20. I think they were both 20 and 21.
Yeah.
And in order to rent a car, they had to pay cash for the car. And then they had to pay the insurance policy up front in cash.
Wow.
And I mean, you're talking about a couple $1,000s. Like a 20-year-old doesn't have a couple $1,000s to go put down on a rental car.
Man, that's crazy.
They had to borrow a car that, luckily I think my parents had one that ran well. And so that's what they used to get to their honeymoon and back.
Yeah. And how far were they driving?
A couple hours. It wasn't far. They could have taken their own car, but they were just looking to get something a little nicer. It's your honeymoon. You're gonna go a little extravagant.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see, going back, what are you seeing with, like, anecdotally, the landscape, from a retailer's perspective for the cigar industry?
So there's a lot of new innovation, with new cigars coming out. The ruling we just got with the FDA, that was very, very great. I think, the flavored cigar stuff, we're still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
But as far as like new cigars coming out, I think you're going to see a big uptick in that in the next couple of years, because they basically have said the FDA can't
they can't regulate
right
the industry,
so
essentially.
That allows us to be a little more innovative in what we do with the tobacco, right? And we're all using the same tobacco, different processes, but to be able to continue to be relevant in an industry that is changing constantly, you have to be able to innovate. And so being handcuffed by the FDA to not be able to do that, I think made that exponentially harder for a lot of people, and especially on the more boutique companies. Right. Because they're having to purchase tobacco. Most of them don't have a factory. They might control the rolling aspect of it. Most of them don't. They contract that through someone else. So I think from a boutique standpoint, that had an even larger impact for them. But it's great for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you're kind of alluding to, the dynamic in this industry is every cigar manufacturer or supplier has like a few core lines in their portfolio that usually are basically permanent players. But then you have a few that maybe don't perform, so they'll discontinue them and make room for a new one. So like our industry is always constantly coming out with new blends or
even
lines.
Limited editions. You take this Weller by Cohiba, right? Like if they start regulating that, then that makes this exponentially harder to produce every year.
Right.
Because it has to meet the FDA standards, right? And that's where the substantial equivalency laws that they tried to throw into that was very convoluted and hard to understand. But, that was kind of like their, oh, well, we'll throw you this little bone and, it's impossible to meet that. But here it is available.
Yeah.
So having those limited editions that people love, right? People come in and ask for those cigars because it's not something they can get all the time. That's a big part of our industry.
Yep. Yeah, because we always hear the end consumer, most of them are asking, hey, what's new?
What's new? That's the biggest question.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, with this ruling, essentially, which kills the FDA's intent to regulate, is done until, I forget what date. There's a date, I don't know if it's November or October sometime, where the FDA has that time period to file an appeal. And if they don't, man, the ruling is such that there's no regulation, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think everyone's kind of waiting for that date, hoping that the FDA doesn't appeal.
For sure.
And I'm expecting the onslaught of new lines, maybe new companies. People are now energized to invest.
Absolutely.
To create, their own, maybe their first cigar company, whether it be a retail or an actual cigar manufacturer. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. I just hope they don't file an appeal at the last minute.
Yeah. That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah. But you saw that a lot in the 90s with the boom, new companies coming out and new products coming out constantly. And you saw that again during COVID. Like there was a lot of companies that were struggling that business picked back up because more people started smoking again. And so it just allows for more variety in the industry. And I think that's a good thing overall, right? There's some, give and take there. There's probably some companies that need to go out of business that for whatever reason.
The market will take care of that. Right.
The market should take care of that. It shouldn't be the government telling us yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, are you seeing more shops opening in your territory? Are you getting more count application requests? Is it kind of about average?
Yeah, it's probably average now. We did have an uptick of that for a while with the COVID boom. That I don't know what else to call it, but that's kind of what it is, right? So we definitely saw an uptick of that. I think that's settled down some. We're definitely not seeing people go out of business as often.
Yeah.
So that's
notwithstanding personal mismanagement or just if everything's status quo.
Right. Yeah. So the industry I think is in a really good place. And I think it's going to continue to grow and it's going to continue to innovate and it's only good for the end consumer.
Which lines have surprised you the most this past year, I guess, sales performance in your portfolio?
So we talked a little bit about this last time I was here with that $8 to $12 price range. When I first got into the industry, that was like the standard, right? You could find the best cigars in the world in that $8 to $12 range. And then you could find even better cigars in that $20 range. That range from 8 to 12 is now gone to 12 to 15, right? And that's just the cost of everything has gone up. So cigars go up. But Punch has been a line that has maintained in that price point and has really done well, right? Innovative marketing, new products coming out. We had the Punch Dad Bod around Father's Day that was
huge success.
Awesome, right? So that line surprised me with how much it has continued to grow through the plateau that we're in. So that one's done really well. Macanudo has always done well. Cohiba's always done well, right? But you definitely saw an uptick of that during COVID.
Yeah.
With
so
everything.
Punch would be like the cigar of the year in your company's portfolio.
I think so. It's grown to the point where, I mean, it's still a budget cigar, but it's phenomenal tobacco, great blends, and great marketing. So it's just pushed it farther and farther.
Yeah, for those who don't know, that Punch Dad Bod was, I mean, when I saw that presentation, I was like, I got to buy into it. Awesome packaging. The shape was basically the Champion Vitola, which is, I guess, how would you want to call it? Like a cigar with like a pudgy stomach.
Yeah. So the whole idea was that it looked like a Dad Bod, right?
Yeah,
I kind of fit that portfolio myself, right? The thinner at the top and then a pudge in the middle and then come back to your feet, right? It had a necktie for a band, which was hilarious. They came in a beer can, and the box was a four pack of beer cans, which is what we see with craft beer now. So it was just great marketing all around. Whoever came up with that was a genius.
So did you guys sell out? Because that was, I guess, a one-time run in its first run.
Yeah, we're out of that one. So originally we got an allotment of that to sell. I blew through that in no time.
Wow.
And they just I just kept putting orders in, and they didn't tell me to stop, so I just kept selling it, and it just kept going, and I blew through the allotment.
Wow, good.
Yeah, it was a great cigar too. It's a Cameroon wrapper on that one, so phenomenal cigar. I really hope that we put that into an everyday blend.
Yeah, or maybe at least an annual.
Yeah, an annual release. That'd be cool.
Yeah. No, that was a big hit. What are you seeing with the rebranding, redesign? I don't know if it was actually necessarily a reblending of the Sancho Panza, because that's an old school blend.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, that's an old Cuban brand.
Absolutely.
You guys have the trademark for use in this country.
So Matt Booth spearheaded that whole thing. Him and Justin Andrews kind of worked together with that, and they did reblend it.
Okay, so
repackaged it.
Okay.
Yep, everything's unique, and it is very Matt Booth-esque, right? The bright colors, the way the text looks on the box and on the band, and I absolutely love that cigar. I smoke a ton of those. I love those things.
Yeah,
that the double Maduro and or the extra fuerte. I mean, those are two of my favorite cigars. And in the morning, you know, a lot of times that's what I do is I get up, I eat breakfast, I hit the road, I find a coffee shop, and I light up a Sancho Panza original. And that's part of my routine for the day.
Yeah. No, you got the 3 lines: the original, the extra fuerte you were talking about,
yep,
and the double Maduro.
Double Maduro, yeah. So I mean, I could smoke any of those 3 at any time of the day, but I think the double Maduro is my favorite of those 3.
Okay.
But I'm a big, like, that real rich Maduro, a little bit of sweetness kind of on the back end is one of my favorite blends. So that cigar absolutely meets that. So it hits my palate perfectly.
Now, going to your personal preferences with cigars, before you got into the industry professionally, what were some of your favorite, say, profiles or sizes?
Yeah. So size wise, I prefer like a Corona, and even up to a Toro, right? Anything above about a 54 ring gauge is not my normal pick. But there's times where certain cigars perform better in that size. You know, in a 6x60, that's about as big as I really will go. The consumers have increased that. You know, we're seeing 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, all this
crazy,
really big ring gauge stuff. And it's just not my personal preference. But listen, if there's a market for it, we're going to sell it. So why not capitalize on it, right? If it's hot, let's do it. You know, move forward with it. So size-wise, I prefer, Robusto, Corona, some Lanceros. You get burn issues out of Lanceros sometimes. So those get annoying, especially when you're on the road. You know, when I'm driving, I don't have time to pay attention to the cigar really. Yeah. So, but profile-wise, anything broadleaf Maduro, I love. Anything with that like really rich Maduro with the little sweetness on it is my absolute favorite. So, you know, I smoke a lot of Tatuaje, Fuente, My Father. You know, a lot of the CAO line is exactly that. And I love full body, powerful cigars too. Just depends on my mood. Yeah. You know, the Macanudo stuff, Cohiba. I mean, we have such a great portfolio. It's hard not to find something that you like. Yeah, there's definitely something for everyone. When they're exploring the general cigar catalog. Yeah. Well, and I'm a cigar nerd, much like you guys are, right? Like I love how broad the industry has gotten now. And just seeing the growth in the industry these past few years has been really cool. It's been a little stunted by the FDA stuff with new products coming out, but I think it's forced a lot of us to get better at coming up with new ideas. And so I think that's, you know, it's a consequence of a negative situation, but we figured out a way to work through it. So. Yeah. And then, what I like about this industry, you talk to like the reps or insiders. Of course, we're promoting our own product. Absolutely. But we have our secret favorites, maybe. For sure. Some people don't make it secret, and they're transparent about, you know, like Pete Johnson's talked about him liking Henry Clay, a legacy brand. He loves La Flor Dominicana. Yeah. So it's cool to see like other manufacturers smoking other people's product. Well, and listen, I'm not involved in the blending process that's not what they pay me to do,
Mhm.
right? Occasionally I get to smoke something that's in a development stage, and that's fun,
Yeah.
right? They're not always
they ask
good.
for your feedback.
Yeah, occasionally. They're not
Mhm.
always good,
Mhm.
but it's even if it's not a good cigar, I still love doing it, right?
Yeah.
So not being on that side, I don't necessarily need the knowledge of what other people are producing, but to be able to sell my product, having a knowledge of what else is on the market to say, hey, if you like
Brand
X,
X, yeah.
this is my equivalent to that, or
Mhm.
something that's similar in that same vein. And so that helps me sell the product. So I'm very much in favor of smoking everything, to be able to know what's out there.
Mhm.
I think it makes me better at my job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows that you're sincere and quite frankly, that you're an authority in your trade, that you're
Mhm.
not just a company man. Like this is all I smoke. I don't smoke anyone else's cigars,
Yeah, I preach the gospel, but it's it's also because I love it, right?
Mhm.
It's not just because the company pays me.
Mhm. So you had mentioned besides cigars, you're a duck hunter. What's
Big
your
duck
outlook?
hunter, yeah.
What's your outlook for this season? It's coming up.
Man, the hatch was not very good. Did you see the Delta came out with the
Yeah.
waterfowl numbers?
We have someone hopefully from Delta Waterfowl
Oh, that's
going
gonna
to
be
appear
cool.
in the podcast maybe in a few weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna definitely see that one.
Yeah.
So, the hatch was not great for mallards, which when we duck hunt, that's kind of what we shoot for most of the time.
And where do you hunt? Just to specify.
So I live in Arkansas. Yeah.
You're
I
not
live in Arkansas.
traveling
I do
necessarily?
some. We go to Oklahoma and we kill ducks, geese, and sandhill cranes out there. We're going to Texas this year to hunt geese. It's the first time I've done that in Texas. I'm hoping to come down here with you at some point and check out your guys' style of hunting, because it's a little different than what we do, right?
Yeah. What do you
So-
do? You do timber or field?
We when I was younger, we hunted timber exclusively.
Okay.
Because it's so unique to Arkansas to have so
Mhm.
much flooded timber and public land to be able to do that, right? The problem with that is it grew so much. A lot of the big clubs and guide services have bought up a lot of that land, or not necessarily the public land, but they have better access. The ducks have better access to food and environment, and that's a reason to go there, right? If you're, just take it as a person, say, if I drive down this road, there's 60 restaurants, I get my choice, right? If I go down this road, take the back road, there's 2, right? So you're going to probably go down this one that gives you a ton of options
Yeah.
and provides you with food and reproduction opportunities, right? That's nature. That's what the ducks are going to do. So it's made it harder to hunt public land. There's also more people doing it, so that's made it a little more difficult. So now we don't hunt much flooded timber anymore. I'm fortunate. I have a friend from college that I started duck hunting with that has some property that he's put a lot of time and money into developing. So we have a couple of waterfowl units that we get to hunt with. There's some trees in the area, so there's a lot of acorns on the property, and then we plant millet and corn and coffee bean and different things to attract them. So
Coffee bean?
Coffee bean, yeah, they love it.
Really?
They love it, yeah.
What?
The downside to coffee bean is if you like wound a bird, but it's not dead, they can hide in that coffee bean very, very well because it's very thick and tall. So we've lost a couple of birds to that. They drop out of the sky. They sit there for 5 or 10 minutes and they get up and fly off, and you don't even know they're still there.
And your dogs can't find them?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Oh.
So ducks dive under the water a lot of times. And so like the dog will be trying to find it and they'll just dive under the water and hold their breath, and they can swim very well. I've seen ducks go under the water and swim 200 yards away from you.
Whoa.
So, it's very easy for them to get away from a dog. So that's why we shoot them. We don't just let the dog go get them.
Right.
So,
right.
So we do a lot more speckled-belly goose hunting. That's one of my favorite birds to eat. It tastes like steak.
Yeah.
It's delicious. So we love doing that.
Ribeyes in the sky, huh? Ribeyes of the sky. They call it,
so
the nickname?
we call that sandhill cranes. That's the nickname we call that. But other places in the country, they call speckled-bellies that. So it depends on where you're from, right?
Okay.
It's the same thing. You guys call crappie something different down here.
Oh, yeah. Sockeye.
Sockeye, yeah.
Sockeye, yeah. Which it's like a perch, basically.
Yeah.
That fish has so many names.
Yeah, absolutely. So just depends on where you're from, what you call it. But we do a lot more field hunting. Arkansas is the largest rice production in the world. So we hunt a lot of rice fields, flooded rice fields, soybean, corn. We have a lot of options to hunt down there. So we do a lot of different kinds of hunting, which is really fun for me because we get to try out different things and experiment with, what works best. And even in our waterfowl unit, we try to plant different things to try to draw birds, and you're trying to guess on what's going to get you the best result. So that changes every year.
Yeah.
But I love it. I'm addicted to bird hunting.
Yeah, but you're right. The outlook doesn't look good this year. At least with the hatchery rates, the drought, especially the type I do is more marsh hunting.
Yeah.
You have to use I have a gator tail boat to get me to where I need to go.
Yeah.
But I was going to do some scouting. I don't know if you guys have an early teal season.
Yeah.
That opens for us this Friday. I don't know about
the
you
15th,
guys.
Same.
Okay.
Same. Yeah. We have I believe Canada goose is open right now. And dove. We did a little bit of dove hunting, not a ton of success. I didn't grow up a dove hunter, so I'm trying to learn how to do that. So, that's part of the growing process with being a responsible hunter, is figuring out how to do it. So,
right.
But that's been fun. We're learning that. We're planting some stuff to try to get them in. So next year, I hope we'll have a little better crop of birds than we did this year, but we'll see how it goes,
I'm sure that the drought was probably a major reason.
Yeah.
Why it's so poor production.
So we don't own any farmland. So the farmers have access to water that if they need it, they can tap into it off of the river. So they can water the crops and force them to grow, right? Oh, but where we're at, we just
rely on nature.
Yeah, rain is the only water we have. So if it doesn't rain, it's just not going to take. So, your crop is, if it even grows at all, it's stunted. It's not going to grow very big. And then army worms or caterpillars or whatever get a hold of it, especially when it's smaller. They're attracted to it, so they eat it up before it gets a chance to develop. So we'll see. We've had pretty good success with ducks the last couple of years on that property. We're fortunate that most of us have full-time jobs, so it doesn't get overhunted. So we only hunt it once a week, sometimes twice. If there's a ton of birds in the area, we might hunt it Saturday and Sunday. But for the most part, we hunt it one day a week. So having the multiple landscapes of hunting opportunity allows us to, we'll field hunt for geese on Saturday and then we'll duck hunt on Sunday. So we can go to different parts of the state to do different things, which is nice.
Yeah. Do you have a dog of your own, or do you rely on someone else? Okay.
So a couple of my buddies have dogs. I have a black lab. She's 7. She's been on a couple of duck hunts. Yeah, she's getting up there. She's the youngest of the fleet right now. So we're gonna have to make some changes here in the next couple of years. But yeah, she's great. I don't spend a lot of time training her. She could be better.
She does just enough.
Yeah, just enough to get by. Oddly enough, we cannot get any of our dogs to pick up a sandhill crane. They pick it up, they drag it about 2 feet, and they drop it, and they will not pick it back up. I don't know what's wrong. They just, it's a different kind of bird. They're huge. I mean, they're 4 feet, 5 feet tall. So they just, for some reason, it smells different or it tastes different. I don't know what it is.
It's too heavy?
No, because they can pick them up. They drag them, right? Yeah. It's too tall to pick the whole bird up, but they drag them. And I think it's just like you have to start a dog at a young age to get used to that crane, right? Because there's guys that have dogs that will do it. But, a lot of times certain dogs won't pick up geese, right? It just depends on what the dog's used to.
Yeah. Yeah. How it's been trained or what's been exposed to.
Absolutely. But I love watching a good dog. It's one of my favorite parts about hunting is watching a really good dog. Yeah.
For me, that's what's been most fascinating about I guess is like my 3rd year. So I'm still a rookie. And I bought a dog a couple years ago. It's going to be 2, training him. And, I just don't know if I'm going to take him out just where I'm at. Cause again, the drought's so bad and we're still so hot where I hunt. If it's too hot, the alligators are present. So I don't want to risk, bringing the dog out there.
That's one thing I'm so glad we don't have to deal with is alligators.
I was going to ask, you guys don't have that, huh?
We have a couple, but they stay in the river mostly. So we don't have to mess with it. We don't hunt much on the river anymore. Trying to fight for a public land spot in Arkansas is miserable. So you got to show up to the boat ramp at midnight, and then you sit there in line till 4 a.m.
Oh, that's miserable.
They changed the laws. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos of the boat races.
Mm-mm.
Oh gosh.
What's that about?
It's so funny. So used to, you could put your boat in the water, but you couldn't leave the staging area until 4 a.m. So all these boats would get there. There'd be 10 of them. And they'd just be sitting there waiting. And as soon as it turned 4 a.m., everybody's cranking their motor and they're gone.
Oh, man.
And so they're racing to these spots. And, it turned into people were running into each other and hitting trees. And a couple people died. And a couple of dogs died from getting hit by other boats. And so the Game and Fish changed the rules where you're not allowed to put your boat in the water until 4 a.m. So you just have to line up at the boat ramp and wait your turn.
Okay.
So that has cut down on a lot of that, but it still occasionally happens. Somebody gets reckless and race into a spot. And
I'm sure there are fights that have occurred.
Well, it just happened in Tennessee. I think 2 years ago, the guy showed up to a public duck blind, and there were two like teenagers in there, and he got mad and shot both of them, killed them.
Whoa.
So
Jeez.
it gets a little hectic. I mean, I've seen multiple fistfights of people arguing about duck hunting. It's like, look, I love to duck hunt. It's my favorite thing to do, but I'm not going to fight you.
Right.
Like, you can have the spot,
Yeah.
What I don't get is like, just hunt together.
Yeah.
Make it better for everybody.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do that. So some people do. Just depends.
Yeah, that's why I haven't done public, and I just don't have the experience to go alone, and I don't really have too many people I know that duck hunt. So or at least that with that experience of public. So I have my own spot, but that hasn't really produced. I'm fortunate. I'm friends with a guy. He was on a podcast episode early on. That he's I've been fortunate that he's invited me the last couple of years, and where they're at, it's just really plentiful.
Yeah.
Just for whatever reason, the terrain where they're at, it just produces a lot of food for the duck. So it's awesome to see the population, especially in Louisiana. I don't know if you keep up with it. Our numbers have just been decimated.
Yeah.
At least in Southeast Louisiana.
It's the same in Arkansas. And I think, it's a good thing for the other states, the northern states, right? They're providing a way for the ducks to stay longer so that they can hold more birds. Listen, if I lived there, I would do this. I would do the same thing, like.
So now you're experiencing what Louisiana has experienced.
Absolutely.
So you hate it too, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a trip up to Canada next year.
Cool.
We'll see if we get that together. It's expensive, but we'll see if we can get that together.
That previous guest I was talking about, he said when he went to Canada, I forget when it was, they were going for Canada geese, and when they went into like a Walmart just to get their license, the clerk was asking them, "Oh, what are you here for?" And it's like, "Oh, we're here to shoot Canadians." It's like, no, you don't say that. It's Canada geese. Say you're here to shoot Canadas.
Yeah.
Not Canadians, like people. Yeah.
We had a fun experience in Oklahoma. We were just kind of out on our own trying to scout for cranes and get permission to hunt them. And so we went to the Starbucks one morning to get some coffee while we were scouting, and the lady at the window at Starbucks asked us what we were there for. And so we're like, "Oh, we're hunting sandhill cranes, She got mad and did not want to serve us.
Whoa.
Yeah. She's like, "I know where a bunch of them are, and I'm not going to tell you."
Jeez. Well, I was going to ask you, because I've never hunted that. How are they to eat?
So speckled belly geese and sandhill crane are my two favorite birds. Yeah. Okay. They taste very close to each other. The sandhill crane is just so much larger. My wife and I can cook one sandhill crane breast with a salad and a side, and that's a full meal for two people. One breast. So, it goes a long way.
So for two people, that's about 2, maybe 3 meals worth.
Each bird, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I think you can kill 3 a person a day, I think is the regulation. So each state's different, but I think there it's 3.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not an expert, so I probably couldn't even identify one if I saw it. I don't think I've seen them, at least in the marshes where I go.
No.
I guess more northern.
There's a wildlife refuge area, I think in somewhere near Biloxi that is like a rest area for cranes. So they do fly down through there.
Okay.
What's interesting is they migrate from Russia every year. They come across and then down the flyway, and then they go back every year.
Oh,
they can fly like 700 miles a day. Wow. It's unreal. And they're massive birds. It's a prehistoric, like 4 million year old bird. They're very majestic, but they just taste delicious.
Yeah. So I'm assuming the population has to be big enough to warrant hunting them, right? Even though
absolutely.
You probably have some people listening to this that would have the same reaction to that Starbucks attendant.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
yeah.
I don't want you hunting them.
Well, and listen, we're responsible hunters.
Right.
You know, we do everything we can to meet the regulations and try to do everything by the book. There's a reason you have to control populations. Same thing with deer, with any animal you're allowed to hunt, right? So, you know, we go to the states that have the population that need to be controlled, and we try to participate in those hunts. So it's not like we're just out killing random birds, right?
You're not killing it for like the bloodthirst.
Right. It's not a trophy.
Yeah.
No, we eat every bird we kill. Every single bird. That's why I don't shoot coots, because they taste awful.
Yeah, I haven't eaten one, and I know they're really considered more of a trash.
Yeah. It's like
animal.
it's like a cross between a crow and a duck is kind of what they look like.
Yeah.
They're really weird birds.
Yeah, the
but they
black
do not
web
taste
feet,
good.
so they don't taste good.
They do not taste good.
Well, I have some people here in like South Louisiana that swear by it, that I guess they cook it a certain way in a stew, and maybe the spices cover.
Maybe.
some of
I
the
don't know.
taste.
I've never had it cooked where I thought it was appetizing.
Oh,
So I mean, I'd be willing to try it though. If somebody could figure out a way to cook it and make it taste good.
Yeah, I believe they call that pull do in South Louisiana.
Pull do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they're like, I mean, to put it frankly, they're kind of dumb, right? Like you can run into them while you're in the boat. They're just clunky and clumsy.
We have been out duck hunting, and a group of them swim right up to you, and somebody shoots at them to make them go away. They fly off. 20 minutes later, they swim right back to where you were, and it's like, how do you guys not figure this out? Like, get out of here. You know?
But I understand it's good to have them, because they signal this, like, I guess, comforting, like, feeling to other big duck that, oh, I guess if they're there, we may as well land next to them too.
Yeah. The
so
problem,
do you find that, I mean, it's maybe not advantageous to scare them off?
Well, the problem we have is if they are like right on top of where we want the birds to land, then they'll land away.
Oh.
And they're out of range, right? So we try to keep the coots away from the area that we want the birds to land in.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So most of the time you don't have a problem. They stay closer to like bridges and areas like the islands, stuff like that. So we try to find a spot where they're not like right on top of it. But it's nature. You can't control them. Yeah. You know, they're going to do what they do.
Well, let me know how the hunts go this year.
Absolutely. Do you guys have snow goose season down here?
I think there is, but I've never hunted that.
So we have a conservation hunt.
Yep. We have something like that.
So it opens the week after duck season closes in February, maybe 2 weeks. But they're so overpopulated, they can't control them. So when that season comes in, you can kill as many of them as you can get to. And they're just a nuisance. Yeah. The only way I have found that those taste good is we put them in like summer sausage.
Okay.
Make like a jalapeno and cheese summer sausage out of them.
So you blend it, you cut it with like pork?
Yep.
That? Okay.
Yep. Then make a sausage, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Unless we, if we kill one or two of them, it's not enough to make sausage out of, then just mix it in with the other birds and hope you don't get it. But we're going to eat it. We're not going to waste it. So. Do
you do any other hunting like deer or turkey?
Yeah, I do some deer hunting. I killed one last year. I don't do a ton of deer hunting. I'm not great at sitting still and being quiet. Yeah. That's the hard part for me. So I'm going to try some turkey hunting this next spring. We don't have a fall season for turkey anymore. It's just spring. Okay. So I'm going to try to get a turkey this year. I've got a buddy that's bear hunting right now. Bear season just opened in Arkansas today. So long as the quota is not met by the time I get back, if you still got bear in the area, I may try it, but I'm assuming it won't be open still. The quota gets met pretty quick there.
Oh, so yeah, Louisiana used to have a bear season, but the populations have dwindled, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the goal is they want the populations get back up to where they can have a bear season.
Absolutely, and that's the goal with every animal, right? You want the population to be healthy and big.
Yeah, you don't want them to go extinct. So that's what I think a lot of non-hunters don't get. That hunters are actually some of the best conservationists. We want those numbers to go up.
We give more money and provide more effort to control and encourage population of all animals than any other group. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, like environmentalists are great for that, right? But their goal is not for a bigger population of the animals. Where hunters, it's like, listen, we want the environment to be good
You want to balance.
so that the animals come back, but you have to control it to a point where it's a healthy animal, right? That's the chronic waste disease with deer is a very, very big hot button topic. There's some controversy inside of that, but it's you're trying to weed out the bad apples in that population. So
the sickly ones.
Right. Absolutely.
Huh. Yeah. I think we had our first case. I don't know if it was last year or the previous year in Louisiana. So I guess it's spreading everywhere.
Yeah. As far as I know, it's in every state now.
Okay. Yeah. And for people who don't know, it's basically it's a virus, right? That attacks it's the called, deer in their brain, and they look like zombies.
It's called chronic waste disease. I'm not 100% convinced that every deer that they have shown to have chronic waste disease, like in videos to promote it. There's another disease that they can get that is really bad for them, and it spreads like crazy. And I think some of the videos that you see that people are claiming are chronic waste disease are that, right?
Oh, okay.
So with chronic waste disease, you can still eat the deer. Humans have never gotten CWD. So some people eat them, some people don't, right? It's up to you. But I don't think they're doing it anymore, but a couple years ago, every deer that was shot in the state had to be tested for it.
Okay.
And so they were trying to control it, and there's not really any way to control it. So but I know people that killed them that ate the meat before they got the test back, and come to find out it's got CWD, but the meat's still fine. It doesn't do anything to the body of the deer. Yeah. So
I'll have to get some other insight into that from a biologist or something, because I've never heard that. I just assumed if it has CWD, don't even touch it. Like just kill it and don't even.
Nope, they're perfectly fine.
Okay.
They say the death rate with CWD is 100%, but I think the deer would have to go for years with CWD before it finally killed them.
Oh, okay.
I know I've listened to other podcasts of like the big deer farmers in Texas, the high fence stuff, and they've got it in their populations, but it doesn't kill them. Now they have to kill the deer eventually. This is state regulation, right? And then there's a lot of stuff you have to do to pass to be able to grow. Shouldn't say grow, to continue the reproduction process that they go through. But I've never seen one that has just died from CWD that I know of.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting topic. I'll have to do more research on that as well. Well, look, we're wrapping up. One last request. We have this final segment called the Final Puff.
Okay.
Are you up for it? It's basically a lightning round, just 4 questions.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other hot sauce?
Louisiana hot sauce, my favorite.
Okay. Very good. Favorite vacation destination?
Ooh, the Caribbean, Jamaica.
Okay.
I'd pick Jamaica.
Very good. Number 3, the ideal person you would want to smoke a cigar with, alive or deceased?
That would be interesting. I think Teddy Roosevelt would be a really interesting guy to smoke with. I think I would also put Joe Rogan on that podcast, or on that answer. Yeah, because I think he is broad enough and interesting enough that would be a great conversation.
And he is a cigar smoker now.
Absolutely.
Interesting enough. So that helps out our industry. It's awesome to see him promoting the culture and the beauty of the cigar world.
Yeah, he smokes a cigar on almost every podcast. It's great.
Yep. And final one, your desert island cigar.
Ooh, desert island cigar. Man, that's a tough question there. I would probably say the CAO Brasilia would be, I could smoke that one and not get tired of it.
Okay.
And I feel like that would be a great pick for a desert island.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have any other insights or comments before we sign off?
No, thanks for having me. This has been great.
No, I appreciate you coming on. So
I'm really enjoying watching the episodes too. Yeah. It's great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Great
and everyone, until the next cigar, thanks for tuning in.